So when is the best time to start preparing for your next run? So today's video is a whole lot about post-run self-care and a little bit about paradigms. And you know what paradigms are? That's the way we view or think about certain situations, certain things. And it kind of relates to my intro question of when is the best time to prepare for your next run? And I propose that's at the end of your existing run. Now, as we often think about the things we do, the self-care we do after run, as post-run recovery. And I would propose a new paradigm is to think about it as the things you need to do to prepare for your next run. Think about it. If you don't get the right nutrition, get the right hydration, right rest, you put your next run at risk for when you want to do it, how much you want to do, performance you want to get. So when you're done with the run, start thinking about it as pre-run preparation. And I think in doing so, you're more likely to do the things you need to do after run to assure your success for your next run. So today we're going to talk about the 5 things to do after run to help prepare you for your next run. That includes cool down, nutrition, hydration, stretching, and rest. Before we do that though, my name is Ralph, and this is The Ageless Runner. If you're new here, my channel is all about helping you have a better running life at any age, but especially if you're an older runner. So if you like what you're hearing, I would love to have you stick around. Just hit that subscribe icon down in the corner anytime during this video. Thank you. So let's get started and talk about cool down. First off, are you doing a cool down? You know what I mean by cool down? That's you finish your run and you take some time to cool off. And that doesn't mean going inside, jumping in a lounge chair, grabbing a beer and sitting there and drinking it. What it means is after you stop running, do something at a lower pace to let your heart rate come down, let your sweat rate come down, let your breathing become more relaxed. So when you do that, it allows your body to start getting rid of those waste products like lactic acid, begins getting more oxygen into your blood, helps that repair process. So basically your cool down should not put any more stress on your body. So if you were doing an intense workout, maybe intervals or threshold run, then your cool down might involve a little bit of slow jogging, going down to a walk. And if you did, for example, a long run where it wasn't a real fast pace, then you may just want to do walking entirely. But you eventually want to get to where you're walking a little bit, let that heart rate come down, let that breathing rate come down, let your sweating kind of relax, and help all those body processes begin. So we're talking maybe 5 to 10 minutes, nothing excessive, but not too short either. Give that body a chance to start recovering. I have the challenge sometimes that I often run in my neighborhood, so I'd be careful I don't run to my house and then go inside. So I often try to start short, or even if I end up at my house, I'll walk around for a little bit to try and cool down. So make sure you get that cool down, because that starts the whole process of preparing for that next run. Now, second item we want to talk about is nutrition. We're talking about carbohydrates and protein. So you often hear you should consume protein within an hour, preferably within 30 minutes, but you also want to consume carbohydrates. Your glycogen levels are down and you want to replenish those also. Now there's been research to suggest that a carbohydrate to protein ratio of 3 to 1 to 4 to 1 is the best for recovery. So by way of example, if you eat a hard-boiled egg, for example, what is that, 7 or 8 grams of protein, then you want to get somewhere around 30 grams of carbohydrates with it. So if you eat a hard-boiled egg, you may want to eat, a muffin. Don't eat a donut. Don't eat something high in sugar. That sugar is not good for your body after a run. Get something that's less sugar. Could be complex carbohydrates if you want, but get something that's not real sweet, but gives you that boost of carbohydrates for your glycogen. Now, one thing that I do, I use a recovery drink, and they're out there. I use a product called Endurox R4. I'll put something at the end of this video. You can look at it if you're interested. So this Endurox R4 has a carbohydrate to protein ratio of 4 to 1. I think a serving is like 10 grams of protein and 40 grams of carbohydrate, something like that. And so you mix it up in water, shake it up, and it's ready to go when you're done with your run. Now, a nice thing about it being a recovery drink is it's got water in it. So you're also starting to replenish that water that you need. Number 3 on our list is hydration. And so you also need to consume water. That's extremely important if you're going to get ready for that next run. You need to be well hydrated. So as soon as you finish your run, start consuming water. Water also helps some of the metabolic processes begin. You want to take that protein you're eating, you want that to start repairing those muscles. You need water to do that. There's a protein synthesis process that goes on, and if you don't have water, it just kind of delays that. So the amount of water, there's no set amount. I kind of use my urine color as a judgment. I want to, on any day, whether it's after a run or before a run, have my urine color ideally kind of a light straw color. That means you're kind of well hydrated. If it's too dark, too yellow, yellow, certainly hopefully not a dark yellow color. But if you get that light straw color, it means you're well hydrated. And of course, drinking only after you run, immediately after run, is not the only water you drink. You want to keep drinking throughout the day, keep drinking throughout the future days until you do your next run. So try and get that light straw colored urine, and that means you're well hydrated. Number 4 is that very important post-run stretching. Now, of course, you always hear about stretch after you run. Why is that? Well, your muscles are all warmed up. They're easier to stretch. You can actually stretch them maybe a little easier, a little farther than if you're cold and haven't warmed up, so you want to do stretching. Now, I'm not going to show you any stretching exercises that I do, and the reason for that is there are tons of stretching videos out there on YouTube or wherever. You don't need me to show you another one. There's plenty of them out there. There's plenty of them that focus on post-run, so look at those, find one that works for you. My only suggestion is focus on your vulnerabilities. For example, for me, my vulnerability are my feet. I'm always trying to keep plantar fasciitis at bay, so I focus on stretching my calves. Tight calf muscles are bad for plantar fasciitis, so I focus on stretching those. Sometimes I'll do some things for my hips, but mostly it's my calves. So whatever your vulnerabilities are, go out and find some stretches that help that. Now keep in mind that foam rolling, you know what a foam roller is? It's a roller about that big around, is foam, you roll it over your muscles. That is a form of stretching. If you don't believe me, you ever watch a baker taking a rolling pin and rolling out dough? What's it doing? It's stretching it and flattening it out. So a foam roller does kind of the same thing, only it doesn't flatten out your muscles. It doesn't stretch it out and change its shape, but it does stretch those muscles. So you can also do foam rolling. If you want to foam roll some of your muscles, you may find that a little easier to do. But find your vulnerabilities and make sure you stretch those after you run in preparation for your next run. Number 5 is rest. Now, the other key component of preparing for your next run after your existing run is rest. And of course, that seems kind of obvious, but you want to be very careful and not run too quickly. Otherwise, you subject yourself to injury. They call them overuse injuries, which might be like shin splints, and for me, like plantar fasciitis and things like that. So you want to make sure you get adequate rest. So how long is adequate rest? Well, part of that you got to decide, but there is this general rule of thumb that I've used that says if you do a hard run, whether it's a long run or maybe a threshold run, you should have 1 day of rest for every mile of that run. So if you went out and ran 10 miles, you'd want to really wait 10 days before you do another hard run. Doesn't mean you can't do an easy run in between that. I do that all the time. I'm going to do a long run tomorrow, and it's been 10 days since my last long run because I did 10 miles the last time. But I've done a couple of short runs in between there. But give yourself, think about that 1 mile per day of rest after a hard run. Now, that's just a rule of thumb. Again, it depends on your fitness level. If you're a lifelong runner, you may not need one day per mile. You may be able to do less than that. But the older you are, you may need more rest. So I kind of use that 1 day per mile of run as a guideline and see how you're feeling. But make sure you get that rest. You hear all these places talk about getting plenty of sleep. We all know that. We would, as older folks, would love to get plenty of sleep, right? But make sure you get that rest. That rest is really important after a run, getting ready for your next run. Now, earlier I mentioned having a beer after you run. Is it okay to have a beer after you run? Well, the answer to that is definitely maybe. Beer has a lot of positive qualities for having after a run. It's a lot of water. It's like 90% water. It's loaded with carbohydrates, which you need after a run. Remember we talked about replacing those glycogen losses. And the other thing it has is something called polyphenols. Polyphenols are kind of like anti-inflammatory things. I actually saw a study where they took 2 groups of runners. One group got regular beer, regular wheat beer. The other group got some wheat beer where they had taken out the polyphenols in there, and then they had them run marathons and study them, and they found that the group that drank regular beer, this was over like a 2-week period, had fewer colds, fewer viruses after the marathon than the group that didn't have the polyphenols. So there are some advantages of drinking beer. Now, of course, the disadvantage is the alcohol. The alcohol can dehydrate you. So if you do drink a beer, make sure you drink water with it. Drink a glass of water with that beer. And my recommendation is if you drink a beer, drink something that's a little lower alcohol content. Don't drink, some of these beers have like 8, 9, 10, 11% alcohol. That's pretty strong. Get something under 5%. So no reason you can't have a beer. Obviously, it can help you relax a little bit and unwind after your run. So feel free to do that. Just do it in moderation and make sure you consume water with it. So start thinking about post-run self-care, not as recovery, but as pre-run preparation. I think you're more likely to do the things you need to do if you look at it as a reason for your next run. And I hope you learned a few things today. If you like this video, scroll down, hit that like icon. And while you're at it, if you're new here, hit that subscribe icon. I'd love to have you stick around with me. Thanks again for watching and happy running.